Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Jason, I have been going to the gym for 2.5 years, and I can count the times I've seen people pause bench on one hand. I'm wondering why the hell it is so rare, though, for people to be using this form. Half the time I see people with a whole lot of weight on the bar either stopping 6 to 8 inches short of the chest, and the other half of the time it's touch and go. My shoulders had a lot of issues before I was convinced that pause bench was the way to go, so thanks for that, Jason. Well, ultimately it comes down to ego lifting, and this is kind of the thing that I try to talk to people about, and they'll say, well, powerlifting or lifting for strength or maximum strength is ego lifting. No, not really, because you're actually lifting for the purpose of building strength. You are trying to make yourself stronger in a safe way. That's totally different than just finding ways to lift more weight by cutting range of motion and leverages and everything else. And people need to remember that difference. In a powerlifting meet, most of the best lifters in the world don't actually use sometimes the leverages they use in competition to build their strength up. So bench press, for example, you're going to see a lot of guys who actually bench with no arch. You see guys who close grip, do long pauses on the chest for a lot of the best raw benchers in the world. I'm not saying all of them, but it's a common trend. Same thing, you'll hear Dan Green even talk about that. 242 raw world record holder in both wraps and no wraps. So he'll tell you that pause bench, pause bench, pause bench. Paul Carter, same thing. Paul Carter's a legitimate 500-pound bencher, and he coaches others, and he's tell you the same thing. Pause, close grip bench press is how you build your bench press. Right, so that's not ego lifting. That's saying, okay, I'm going to do this in a manner that forces me to build muscle and strength, and then when you come to competition time, you use cheats and leverages and everything else to get the most poundages within the confines of the rules. Well, when you get to a gym, it's about ego lifting because people put so much value on their bench press, at least in the United States, that they cheat and ego lift and everything else just to get more numbers. It doesn't necessarily build more strength, and obviously, as you found, it's harder on your shoulders. The overwhelming majority of guys out there, they're like, oh man, I hurt my shoulders benching. Like at my age, I'm 41, and the number of guys I've met over the years who, when I chat with them in different social settings, it's very clear to them that I lift when I'm in the room, and conversations start about this, and they're always like, oh yeah, I tore a rotator cuff, I've injured a rotator cuff, I can't bench press anymore, but I want to get back in the gym. I have met dozens and dozens of people over the years who've told me this, guys in my age, and that should tell you something. It's the way guys are benching in the gym is the problem. Bench press is a safe exercise relatively. It's still one of the more dangerous ones, but it's a safe exercise for your shoulders if performed correctly. It's that people do all this nonsense because they're so concerned with showing off and lifting the most weight possible at the gym because their ego is tied to it. It just comes down to pure ego lifting instead of actually training to get legitimately bigger and stronger. And then therein lies the difference. But I'm glad that you've seen the light and that your shoulders have stopped hurting, and hopefully you don't build up any more injuries, or the ones you have don't get any worse. And people need to remember that. A lot of times when you're experiencing shoulder pain, you probably do have a torn rotator cuff. And you're probably going to have some tearing and issues in there forever, but once you get the training under control, it may become asymptomatic, meaning you probably have tears in there, but once you get everything okay in your training, there's a decent chance, hopefully, in many cases, that you won't experience symptoms of that. Might hit you 20, 30 years down the road again because the damage is already there, and if you haven't got it repaired, it's in there. But you'd be surprised. Most guys out there who bench terrible, if they were to go get things checked out, even though they might be pain-free right now, they're going to find they usually have tears and other issues in their shoulders that have already started, but they can get those things back under control. All right, next question. All right, on this next question, this is this person asked me like 15 questions in different lines, and I just grabbed one because I thought it was an interesting one I've never discussed. And he asked, you're against supplements, but at one point you were in contact with Tiger Fitness about starting your own supplement line. What has made you change your mind so much about supplement use? All right, guys, I went through a brief period of time to where, yeah, I did work with Tiger Fitness, and I've publicly admitted it was probably wrong of me. I regretted it. And you guys need to remember that occurred for less than a year. I had less than 1 year in the 5+ years I've been on YouTube Fitness of having an actual involvement with a supplement company. I ended that, And you guys also need to remember they were paying me to write articles for them. I was being paid $400 a page to write articles for them. Which again I've obviously quit doing. Now the thing is, as far as that goes, there's a big misunderstanding there. Brittany and I were sitting around joking and making fun of people who buy supplements, and this is actually one of the things that made me realize that I really shouldn't have been involved with messing with even selling protein powders and stuff. What ended up happening is that when I made that video a while back saying, if we were to sell frozen dog turds, like freeze-dried dog turds and put them in capsules, that bodybuilders would buy it if we promised them it would build muscle. And the idea came in Brittany and I's head because, she does have an MBA in marketing. And we were joking about it, laying around at night, because that's what you do. Your intimate partner, you talk to them, you have conversations. And we were batting around ideas. And she said, you always say that you joke about the dog turd thing. We should brand a supplement line to make fun of people who buy all these supplements. Since you already talk to these people at Tiger Fitness, maybe we could start a protein line and call it dog shit, or call it real dog shit or real dog turds, and maybe censor the word shit a little bit with an exclamation mark, just for the fun of it, just to sell it, just to show how stupid people are who buy this stuff and actually believe it works. And we were joking about that. I don't remember how the whole idea came about, and then I had joked with my contact at Tiger Fitness and said, I got an idea for a protein powder, I'll throw it by you later. And no, it wasn't an actual effort. And people have misconstrued that, because I guess that person discussed that. They misconstrued it as I legitimately tried to start a supplement company, and I absolutely didn't. This was a joke that we thought about. Well, since I'm already kind of involved with the supplement industry and it's a big scam anyways, I might as well just go full tilt and just flat out joke and make fun of people who buy this stuff, and we'll just call it like dog turd protein. And that was actually what the plan was. But what that made me realize, when the thought went into my head, that made me start realizing, oh, holy crap. This whole industry really is that bad. It's as bad as I used to say it was. And yeah, this is the sort of ideas I'm getting in my head just being around it, because I realize it's a big hustle, it's a big scam, and I was going to make money making fun of it. And then I realized, well, if I'm going to be involved in this, and I know that's a scam to the point to where we just start selling dog turds, this isn't right. I need to just go ahead and start easing my way back out of this industry. And that's ultimately what happened. And that's the real story behind me trying to start a supplement line. There was no effort. I think it was a 30 seconds of typing to a person who was editing my articles for me over at Tiger Fitness about just the idea. And then I didn't make any further efforts after it. I sat down and thought about it and said, wow, this is really messed up. That's how messed up this industry is, that's what popped in my head, and I thought it would be funny to actually sell it. I think I'm going to go ahead and get out of this now. And that's what happened. All right, next question. Mr. Blaha. A few weeks back, I asked a question about 10x3 system with clean and press, push press emphasis. I'm now training this way, really enjoying it. However, I can't wrap my head around repeating the same exercises twice in a week if I could develop a more balanced strength base with more variety. Do you think I can use the snatch and behind the neck push press in order to get better muscle balance and more variety? Or should I wait and use it as a variation once the push press gives me overuse or something? Also, are you Czech? To answer the last question, yes, Blaha is in fact a Czech name. Both sides of my father's family immigrated to Texas from Czechoslovakia like almost a century ago. So yeah, I'm actually half Czech. Now, of course, they don't call it Czechoslovakian anymore, but yeah, that's half of my ethnic background. So yes, I am Slavic, and that's why I wear Adidas and squat so much. So, back to your other question. You know what? There's a lot of ways you could look at it. If you really want to master those lifts, there's no reason you can't do that. If you really want to clean and push press twice a week, go ahead. There's no reason you can't dedicate other days to some of these other lifts. But as far as the behind the neck push press goes, that's really going to be dependent upon the individual. There are athletes who have the shoulder mobility to safely do this, but not everyone does. And you need to remember, when we start talking about behind the neck presses, even behind the neck push presses, it is a counter-indicated exercise. Use at your own risk. But you also need to remember there are people who have developed enormous strength doing this who never experience injuries. So again, that's one of those things that you have to assess for yourself, the risk assessment. I've messed with a bit with behind the neck push press and ultimately decided for my own training longevity, it probably wasn't worth it. But then again, that was also partially because I'm getting older. So you could rotate in different things to deal with this, but here's what I might suggest. If you don't want to clean and push press 2 days a week because you want a little more balance, you could totally replace that with a strict press on a different day if you really wanted to focus on overhead pressing and mastering overhead pressing on some sort of high volume triple setup. You have a lot of options there. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.